Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel and also Reality Realness with 3S's here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge USA Episode 3. I'm joined, as ever, by Chantal and Drew, my two co-hosts here. Chantal and Drew, it's been a while. It's been a whole week since we last spoke, but we're back to talk about the Challenge USA. How's things been on your end, Chantal?
Things have been great. It seems like it's been longer since we've talked, and it still seems wild that we're only on episode 3. But I have to say, out of all the shows that I'm watching right now, I think that the Challenge USA is my favorite. And I know that I was kicking and screaming when this concept came out, and I thought that MTV was, the little brother that had the older brother stealing its good idea and making it worse. But I have to say, I'm really enjoying it. At this point, I don't mind who ends up winning because I think that their path getting to the end will be entertaining no matter what. So thumbs up on this show, thumbs up on this cast, thumbs up on this episode, thumbs up all around.
Well, I'm so excited to hear that because I think I was the highest on it coming in. I was worried because of early rumors coming out, but I also think there was a lot of people who probably would have been happy if this one wasn't a success, because there is definitely, I feel like in the challenge fandom, tribalism a little bit. Like, we want to protect what we have, and obviously you've got to respect what has come before and what if created the opportunity for the Challenge USA to exist in the first place. And there's no disrespect to that, but I always feel like more is better if they're doing it well. And I do feel like they've chosen a really good first cast here. They're delivering on all fronts. I agree with you. I am really enjoying the Challenge USA at this stage. But Drew, how are you feeling? You're someone that also you were a little bit low, I guess, on it coming into it. I know it's still early days. We're 3 episodes in, 30% of the season so far, but are you feeling more okay with it now than what you did in the beginning? Is it delivering for you? Where are you sitting on the Challenge USA at the moment? I'm really interested to know your take.
I'm actually really liking this season. I think it's going better than I expected, but then again, I had low expectations coming into it, but I actually am enjoying the season. I do think that they need to start picking up a little bit on the daily challenges. They're not catching my fancy enough, I think, at this point. And if we keep on going this hangman route, then I'm not going to be super thrilled the next 13 episodes, but I'm looking forward to trivia next week. I'm super excited for that, how they do it with 2 people together. And I'm actually having a really good time. I'm loving that we actually have some challenge content and more challenge to watch in between what we got with All Stars and then what we're going to get with the Challenge 38, which I'm hoping is going to be early September that we're going to hear, or sooner than later, in August, that we're going to hear it kind of coming out. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. There's some pros and cons. I'm not like Chantal, who's anybody could win and I'd be happy. I got some people. I got a handful of people.
Who would you hate to win? Who would you hate to win? At this point.
If we go,
David, obviously he's not winning though.
No, if David won, he wins. So I think.
Can you go on a rant about David? He's considering he's only had one confessional.
He's putting all of his eggs in the David basket right now. That's his man. That's the guy who's got to win it for him.
Give us your rant, Drew.
Are we gonna get myself angry already talking about David? I didn't want. David shouldn't even be mentioned. He shouldn't even be picked. I'm so frustrated. Out of everybody, I don't think there's a person that has a worse start to a challenge season than David, who has had one confessional in 3 episodes. 3 episodes. And everybody should have had a confessional, at least one confessional in episode 1. It was an hour and a half long. Over an hour of screen time. David got nothing. What did this man do? He's getting the D edit at this point. Did he say something? Did he do something? What is happening?
I'm trying to remember his partner. I think it was Shannon who was his partner this round, and Shannon spoke about David. So he didn't even get his own confessional. She said, I'm worried for myself and David because I'm from Love Island and he doesn't have any social game. He doesn't have any connection. So that's not a really positive thing.
Producer game. Because I would assume that, each as many producers for multiple cast members, and they, have their confessionals and they kind of build their storylines is what I'm assuming that goes on behind the scenes. And so maybe his producers yeah, we don't really vibe. or like maybe his producer quit. Like, I don't know. It's very bizarre that he doesn't have somebody that is like helping him push a storyline or like giving him leading questions in the diary room, or in his confessional, so that he does get some content. Like, how is he not involved in any storyline whatsoever or have opinion about it?
Yeah. I'm going to say hello to everybody in the live chat in a second here. Richard, who is my co-host for Survivor South Africa, is a new fan of the challenge. And I actually spoke to him a little bit about it. It's the first time he's watching it, but he's now got an interest more in the challenge. So he's the exact type of people that they're targeting with this show right now. And one of the things that stood out for me, and Drew, I'm really interested to know this from your end, because you mentioned that in the beginning, you saw a little bit of a drop in viewership, potentially an interest on the Challenge USA content that you were producing, where I've definitely seen on this channel an increase on people watching our recaps, even just on the Challenge USA compared to the Challenge All-Stars at this stage. Have you seen that trend change? Because there was some statistics that came out this week that showed that the show has almost got 3 times the viewership ratings per episode right now compared to what the MTV show is getting. And I know it's hard to compare MTV versus, a channel such as CBS, which is such a mainstay channel for people, and obviously there's a built-in audience with all these different shows that are coming to it. But is that translated to some of your viewership as well? Have you seen an increase, or is it still pretty stagnant at this stage?
I've seen that like the Challenge USA is doing well viewer wise. Like when I went back and looked at some of the statistics, they have grown as we gotten closer and closer to the premiere. And then when the premiere actually happened, that first episode, but again, all first episodes do really well because people are interested. People want to hear what people have to say about it. And then it kind of like goes up and down and fluctuates. I've noticed that through the MTV, the All-Stars, and also the Challenge USA. So my episode 2 review and recap didn't do like astronomically well as the episode 1, but that's bound to happen all the time. And MTV is the same way. When people go up and down, maybe they miss a week, so they wait to watch your stuff like later on in the week. So I have to say that they're better than All-Star numbers, but still not as high as, say, the MTV benchmark that I've gotten for a lot of my review and recaps and Tiny Table Talks even.
Yeah, I agree. I do notice that definitely performing a lot better for the Challenge USA over All Stars. All Stars always performed; it didn't perform as well as the regular main show. It never did. So the biggest question would be like, how does it perform compared to 38? Because 38 always did really, really, really well, or like just like the main show. Just because it's on MTV, Paramount Plus is a little bit more challenging to get to. CBS is very accessible, so it will be interesting to see if CBS, the challenge, performs better than the MTV's. That'll be
I'm definitely interested in those numbers when we get to the end of the season to see how it did. But I've got a feeling it's doing well. Like I said, it's pulling in from a lot of different shows. But let's say hello here to everybody in the live that are so loyal. They're here every week. We're so happy to have you guys here and to chat some challenge with you. We've got Dolores in the chat. We've got Lovable Nikki here with a stiff neck and some, and all. So I don't know what happened there, Lovable Nikki. I hope you feel better pretty soon. We've got Richard in the chat here. We've got Carly's Red, CJ, Christian Gall, who's a long-time listener and Survivor fan who've gotten into the challenge as well. Little Smurfy, Danita Gibbs, Baby Ice, CJ, and so many more people here. 49 people watching live right now. Welcome to everybody, even if you haven't said anything, if you're just sitting in the background enjoying seeing Drew lose his mind before we even get into the episode. He's already had one of his first runs on David. But let's get into the actual episode, guys. So we obviously have the algorithm. It's going to do random teams again. Like we both know that probably maybe production is slightly involved in getting some of these teams together. Maybe more than slightly involved.
They
again,
decide.
TJ again. Saying that this is the most heart he's seen in a cast in a long time. He's really loving this cast. Still on that really happy buzz with meeting new people on the show. And I feel like even for him, maybe there is a little bit of excitement just because he does get to mingle and go into different crowds. We spoke about it a little bit last week. He gets to broaden his own horizons in regards to his own visibility as a host and maybe strengthen that. But he's really leaning into this theme at the moment. And I have to admit, even though it can be cringy seeing him this happy all the time, I am happy for TJ. I am happy that he's enjoying it out there. We want to see a happy TJ on the show.
Well, I have to say I'm a little bit worried for his longevity, for the fact that I was watching Janelle and McCrae. They have their own little recap about Big Brother, and Janelle had originally been asked to be on that season, but she was dealing with a little bit of long COVID, so she wasn't able to medically be able to show up and play. And she was kind of upset. She's like, "Oh man, I wish they had this when I was 25. I'd just like go onto the Challenge USA and win the money." Like I was like, I love that confidence in Janelle, because she probably would have done that. And it would have been awesome to see. But she wasn't really a fan of the Challenge in general, is what she was saying. She did watch Real World, she did watch Road Rules, but she never really watched the Challenge. She doesn't really vibe with TJ as a host. And so I'm curious, because people, they're not used to him. They don't know him, his style, that we haven't been watching him for 20 years growing up with him, that he might not be translating as being captivating as some of these people are hoping for. So I'm curious as to other people, because obviously this is just their perspective, but other new fans, like how do they feel for him as a host compared to some of the other CBS hosts that we know better?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know from people like Richard and others, Christian Gall, who's new to the show. And if I've missed you and you're new and I don't know about it, let us know in the comments. Do you guys like TJ as a host? How do you feel about TJ? Obviously, this is your first experience with him being a host on the show. I've always really enjoyed TJ personally, but I think also that comes with having seen his growth on the show and how he's evolved as a host. There is something different about him this season, I will say. I don't know, he's being too nice, right, Drew? I mean, we've followed him for a long time. He's sucking up to the contestants, I feel like, a little bit.
100%. From what the talk is in my Discord, from my Patreon, we've talked about it a couple of times where people have mentioned like TJ seems different this season, or he was kind of weird this past week's episode kind of thing. So he is doing a different vibe. It's almost like a weird, like in between All Stars and just jokey around vibes, because we've talked about how he seems happier on All Stars, but this is a little bit different and a little bit quirkier than what we've seen him even on All Stars, where he's just laughing and joking around a lot. So I don't know what changed. Maybe he was given
because
some
he doesn't
notes.
know anybody. Like he knows
Maybe.
at least half the cast on any season that he's doing. So
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's definitely different. I don't know if he got notes from some of the producers and been like, hey, this is going to be cable, man. You got to start picking it up. You got to be a little bit happier.
Boring.
Watch some Jeff Probst maybe and talk about how proud you are every single episode and how
you'll get a talk show, I swear.
Big hearts. Yeah, it's just, it is a little bit weird in my opinion. But I mean, it's TJ, so I'm happy to see him on there because he's the through line, in my opinion. If TJ wasn't there, this wouldn't feel like a legit challenge to me. Like it needs that through line. It needs something. If we don't have the contestants from MTV, I would want the host from MTV to be on here.
TJ, like, I mean, we heard some people here, Sam saying earlier, TJ is like the Jeff Probst that is allowed to swear on the show. And maybe
have we heard him swear?
We haven't, but I feel like he's a little bit. I think what they mean by that, I think what Sam means by that is that he's a little bit more loosey goosey in regards to how he hosts. Right? He's a little bit more. He doesn't follow the script necessarily like Jeff Probst would. But I actually quite like that authentic way that he hosts the show a lot of the times in the past. And I agree with you guys. Like if TJ wasn't there, if he wasn't hosting the show,
they can't call it a challenge. I don't think.
Yeah, he like you can't remove TJ from the challenge, just like you can't, in a lot of fans' mind, remove Jeff from Survivor. Even though I think Jeff is trying to really get fans to not like him as much in recent seasons, there was a time where if you said let's remove Jeff from Survivor, people would have not accepted it. But I think maybe people
I still don't accept it, even though I think he's ruining the show. Like I still think that he should be on. It's synonymous. Like he's part of the experience. So yeah. I agree with TJ being there if they're going to call it the challenge for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's get into some of the early matchups that are created here. Now, it was really fun. You know, my man Dom, he had absolutely zero.
Is he
content.
still your man after this?
He's my man Dom. I've got Dom. I've got him. He did some stuff. We'll talk about it. I definitely think he made some mistakes.
It's like, we are ending this podcast early.
Listen,
Drew, do you want to start it on your channel?
Survivor until I die. That's all I'm going to say in regards to the players that I support. But this doesn't mean I can't criticize some of the things he did this episode, and I will criticize that. But just one bad episode is not going to make me forget how good he was the first time we saw him.
Some bad sweets, I'd say.
So Dom and Cash, they're teamed up together here. They're like all in water. It's going to be a theme that's going to go out throughout this whole episode, how they see the game, how they do things. The one thing I did agree with Dom on was really funny was in the beginning of the episode where Cash and Sarah, hats off to Sarah. This is the social game and why she is so good at the social game. Like we saw at Winners at War. She is there. She entertains Cash's conversation about Cinco and the relationship and how they broke up, and she fakes caring about it. Maybe she does. I don't think Sarah does, but she's there. She's playing the social game. And then it cuts over to Dom, who says, we're not here for this romantic game. We're here for strategy. We're going to play a strategic game. And I've got to be honest. I have to say this. You guys didn't hear this in the live last week, but myself, Drew, and Chantel talked for about an extra hour. Sometimes we do get into rants afterwards. We should actually put some of that stuff up on lives, but we had a bit of a chat, and Drew and Chantel tried to sell me so hard on watching Love Island and some of the dating shows, and I was just like, can't care less about the dating shows. It's not my vibe. So I did see myself in Dom a little bit here when he said, we're not here for that, but it was a funny moment within the show. It just showed how different they are in the show.
The challenge is about messy, right? They want people to hook up, and then they want to make it awkward and put them together on the challenge. Like, that's always been part of the challenge. We have seasons called X's for a reason. We have rival seasons for a reason. So the fact that Dom doesn't want this at all because, like, he's better than that, he's only here for the competition and the strategy, fine, that's an element, absolutely. But the messiness is also an element of the challenge. He has to take a look at what game he's playing as opposed to criticizing people that are contestants on it.
I get that that's why they did the Love Island people and why they brought them in, because there is a history of that messiness, but I don't think that is
the drama. How boring would these episodes have been if they weren't on there?
For sure. Listen, the drama is nice, but I can see myself in Dom. It's like, yes, I am exactly that same person. I would want to be out there gaming. I would want to be playing the physical game. It's the stuff that I enjoy, and obviously fans enjoy different parts of the show. I'm not saying that I'm above it. I don't know if Dom thinks he's above it. Maybe he does. Okay. But he just wanted to keep his eye on the prize, which there is still $500,000 at stake in this game, and you're going to worry about your ex. Put that aside, worry about your ex afterwards, get the $250,000 in the bank account.
But we're creating stories here, right? Is this still
but is that I get it from a production. If we take ourselves out of it, right, as a producer or a casting person, that is what we want. But as an individual playing the game, would you, Chantal, can you tell me if you were to play this game, you would rather get involved in the messiness, or would you go to
I would use the messiness to my advantage, and I'd be like, okay, we got some people that are upset about this, and like, let me use this to my advantage. Let me be on their side. Let me get in their numbers. Let me be their friend. I would not go against it at all. I would definitely be feeding into it and using it and like aiming it in the direction that I'd want to. Absolutely. I wouldn't be repelling it at all. But like, what just popped into my head was like on the Duel with Ct and Diem, like would you be like curmudgeon-y Dom in the corner being like, oh, she took off her wig. Her head should be in the game. Like, you know, it just like all this stuff that was so beautiful. These moments when she kissed her without her wig on, like it was so great. And
Dom doesn't know this. I bet you Dom's never watched the challenge show.
No, I'm not saying that he's going to know this, but I'm just saying, like, if there was a Dom person on that season, seeing what was going on between them, being like, they shouldn't be focusing on the game war rather than their love story. It's like, but that's what happens when people are brought together in a social experiment. Sometimes you have relationships that build that are not just game related. And so I enjoy relationships and how they grow and how they build. And sometimes they break apart. And that is also interesting dynamic as well. So I think just being curmudgeon-y, you're on the wrong show. You go on Ninja Warriors where you don't really have to worry about having the other elements that I think make the challenge pretty interesting.
Or watch Sequester if you just want strategy. I didn't say that I didn't like seeing that element. I like the fact that we've got.
You said you could be like the Dom in this situation.
If I was the player, if I was the player, but me the player and me the viewer of the show are two different things, right? If I'm a player, I don't want to get involved in that messiness, but I do agree with you. You have to use it to your advantage, like I believe Sarah is doing. She's playing a good game
100%.
and she's sitting there, she's taking it on board, she's pretending to be friends. I bet you Sarah couldn't care less. Sarah's
Probably not.
also a married woman. She's past that part of her life, but she's at least trying to blend in. Drew, what was your take? I know myself and Chantel have gone back and forth quite a bit here on this. What did you think of the whole? I know you're going to go hard on Dom for a lot of different reasons, and I'm not just defending Dom throughout this whole episode. There's things he did. He did some stuff that is questionable, and also Cash had some really good inputs that he just didn't listen to, and we'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of great points were made between you two, mostly on Shannon's side, Chantel's side, definitely not your side, Chris. But
all right, let's kick him out of the show.
I just want to throw this out there. Danita Gibbs says exactly what I wanted to say. And she says there's a lot of downtime in the house to can't talk game 24/7, need some drama to balance everything out. And I think somebody else said she wasn't even talking to him. So it's like, why can't she have some peace and quiet and talk to Sarah, who she was like connecting with? I wonder if Sarah came over and asked her about the whole situation.
Like, how are you feeling?
Since it just was recent and everything was happening and everything. And Dom's over there eavesdropping. It's like, dude, take a hike. Go talk to somebody else. What are you doing?
Else's conversation.
Why are you hovering around? Come on, man. Go. You get your head in the game. Don't worry about me. You do you. You got to cover a pipe later, which you can't even do. So it's just
I will say one thing. Hippie Chick here brings up, I don't remember Dom being a party pooper on Survivor. He was also a bit younger on Survivor. He was old then as well, but now it's even older. And that's the problem you have when you bring older people that are in relationships that are kind of there for different reasons. I guess you're always going to get that element of it. But one thing I did see throughout this episode, and I know we're jumping forward a little bit here, but we might as well, while we're talking about the Dom and Cash partnership, is that we saw Dom, he was a mafioso in his original season. It was his way or the highway. He only saw Wendell as an equal, really, in that relationship, and they would bounce ideas off each other. But I do think one thing that made me very aware of, I think there's some limitations in Dom's game that I didn't see the first time he played Survivor. And this is where I will be critical, where he does believe, because he's a construction worker in life and he's a supervisor, right, that people there are just going to fall in line like they're his employees. That's not going to happen. Everybody there is to play a game. Everybody's got experience of being on a reality show before. They're all going to want to have an input or be heard. And I didn't like the fact that he did not listen to Cash at certain points. Now, Cash's argument that, you know, just because they're good looking and they're into the relationship stuff, people are underestimating her and they're not giving her that value as someone that can actually be a valuable part of the duo. That's not a good thing. And I think that, I don't know why he's so short-tempered with her. Like, I feel like he gelled with people a little bit better in that season from what we saw. But then again, now I'm wondering if he does play the game again, will he be another Boston Rob, like in Winners of War, where Boston Rob just try to bulldoze through people? Would Dom do that same thing? Because I think that would lead to an early exit if he was ever to return in any case.
I don't think he'll ever return, because I do think that he was trying to get himself kicked off this season. Like, I don't think he was trying to win. I think that what someone pointed out that he's had Love Island partners for the last all three matchups so far. And so maybe just being involved in that and not feeling like he had any control, not being with anybody in Survivor where he could be strategizing. It's right. Basically, it was just like avoiding elimination because he's with like a Love Island person. So maybe just the way that his game started out allowed him to be just annoyed automatically with anybody Love Island. And Cash was his next new partner. So she's just kind of getting the brunt of the buildup of just being with Love Island people. So that's kind of why I'm thinking that he must be mad at her, or he has like a crush on her and, you know, she's young, he should never go for him and he's married. And, you know, like that's my only other thought, is that he's like kind of interested in her in some sort of way, because, you know, even at the Daily, I'm sure we're going to talk more about it, but she's running. She's a fit woman. Like, she works out all the time. She works out with Cinco when they were together. Like, she is very, very fit. She's also a dancer. And so the fact that she's running quickly and he's like, why is she running so fast? Like, she's going to get burned out and get tired. Like, maybe she won't. Like, you know, she might know her pace, that she could do this pace for an hour or two. And so it just seems at that point he was looking for any reason to just kind of shit on her. And that was just like the beginning of me not enjoying Dom this episode. And I'm not sure if he's going to be able to redeem himself for me as a favorite player of mine. Definitely won't be picking him on my draft, I don't think, anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's Dom. I want to like one
James!
episode, but yeah, I wanted to acknowledge James in the live here has reached out and wants to connect and maybe jump on and do something with us on the live. Definitely, James, we'd love to have you on and talk to you. You know, we're so sorry to see you go this episode. I was really gutted because, to be honest with you, and I'm not just saying it because James is in the live here, and we'll definitely reach out. And James, I'll find a way to get in touch with you. Obviously, it's easier to follow you. I would be a mutual connection of Kayla's, so if you look at that, that's another way on Instagram where we can connect. But I'll make sure.
And I'm friends with
upwards.
Sarah, and I podcast with Sarah all the time, and so Sarah and him are good friends too. So
there we go. So we'll definitely make it happen. And one of the things that really stood out for me, and I'm not just saying it because James is in the live here, is that throughout this episode, it was interesting because obviously they've just won. Him and Kayla just won an elimination. They come back. There's that early conversation between the Amazing Race players about staying strong, right? And they're the outliner alliance, the minority alliance within the game, but they have to stay strong. And then James is the first one to break rank and try and work other angles, which I think Leo, personally, I love Leo as well, but I think he was naive coming into this game when numbers is the name of the game. You need numbers to stay in the game. To think that James wasn't going to try and play all angles, I thought he was doing strategically, like James impressed me, and I'm not saying it because he's in the live, impressed me a lot through the first couple of episodes, really, in a way where I'm like, I want to see more of James on Big Brother. I want to see James on maybe Survivor. Like, clearly he's got the strategical game. He does know how to move where the numbers are. And dare I say, he just got unlucky with a few of these partners and things that just didn't work. Like, for instance, Tasha falling off very early on in this daily challenge. It put him in a bad spot. He was playing from the bottom the whole game.
Well, actually, I'm curious, and maybe James can help us understand, because it seemed like with the challenge and the daily, when he was putting the weight on and she's like, okay, do it slowly, let me know when you're doing it. And it seems as though he was like easing it in. And then it looked as though he just let go a little bit, like it wasn't at the bottom of its heaviness or its weightedness. And so I'm wondering if that's what happened, because some people were just like, oh, she just kind of tipped over. Like, I couldn't really fully understand how that happened, because you were being so careful with Very that careful. And then it just all of a sudden it just kind of tipped. So I was curious if he has, or if you guys have
I feel like she underestimated when you looked at the placement of the pole that had everything connected on it, and it must have been awkward having one weighted sandbag at a time. It throws you off your balance quite a bit. When Survivor, for instance, you see them add both at the same time and it just gets heavier and heavier. I feel like it's just the placement of that pole on her back was off, and she underestimated how much that would throw her off. But also, Drew, Tasha coming into the season, she's such a fierce warrior. She's someone who did extremely well in Survivor in individual challenges, and it looked like she was disappointed in her own effort. And I think, let's be honest, love Tasha or hate her, she did underperform. She didn't really reach those heights that she did in Survivor. Would you say it was a little bit of a letdown seeing her this season, not really living up to those expectations that we as fans maybe have of someone like Tasha coming into the season?
I think it is. I mean, I picked her first overall on my pick, second overall, actually, but first on my team. And knowing where she came from in Survivor, it was one of those things where she came in and I was thinking that she was going to get hit with a whole bunch of confessionals. We were going to see her so much on the screen that she could possibly be able to make it far into the season. But it just did not happen. And I do think that that was exactly what happened with her sandbag, where it was almost like James is like doing it. And then all of a sudden he kind of just like let it go. And the sudden jolt kind of took the bar away from her. But you can just tell, like, one of my favorite parts about this episode was when they were done. She already jumped off the beam. She was on the mat. And then James just goes, "What happened?" And you could just tell, like, she was like, "No, we're done. Like, that's what happened. Get out of my face. Like, I gotta sit here, and I'm gonna just sit here, and we gotta wait till somebody wins this to move on," type of thing.
Think there was also a flaw in the daily for that reason. Like, as soon as somebody's bar fell, like, that means that if you're not in first place or you're not close to fighting for first place, it doesn't matter anymore. And so I think that maybe they should have been able to maybe lose a letter or something like that, but they can still reset and continue, because, nobody had to really fight that hard if they weren't Angela and Kyland or whoever was second. Was it Kira and Kira and somebody was second. Anyways, like it wasn't
Ben.
those people that were really close to winning. They didn't really have to perform and do that well once somebody fell, which was James and Tasha here. So I think that was a bit of a flaw in the enjoyment or in the competition level of the daily.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Let's backtrack it a little bit. Just before this daily, there was a bit of strategizing that happened before the daily took place. We saw that Tyson and Angela, they're going to continue to talk to each other. They're going to continue to work together. Tyson is looking at it as a really mutually beneficial relationship because he's got the Survivor crew. Angela's got the Big Brother crew. Now, I don't know how high up in that hierarchy Angela really is. She's high up now because she's
wins.
winning things.
She's got powers, right?
Yes, she's winning things. So she's important now, but how high up is she really? I don't know. But they're going to continue to work together. They're strategizing, and their strategy for the season is let's get rid of the weak players so that we don't potentially get a booby trap in our team where we've got someone that we need to carry. Normally, I would be against this strategy to keep strong players in the game because you want the easiest people possible to go up against in a finale. But in a season where things are so fluid, I almost feel like this is the right strategy at this stage. Take out some weak people so you don't potentially get them in the next round.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that usually you're just like, get out the strong people if you have the shot, and so that you won't have to run against them in the final. But because the pairs are going to be switching up, it's going to be random, and you're not going to know if you're going to be with somebody that's going to help you win. I definitely would want to get out somebody that I don't want to work with just to get me to the final. And I do feel that Tyson and Angela are very confident on their abilities that they could beat anybody in a final. So I don't even think that they're worried about anybody getting to the final if they keep the stronger people in there until then. So yeah, they're so confident that, and I'm confident in them. I'm just like, oh my God, are they both on my team? I'm sorry. That's great.
I will say that on the opposite, playing devil's advocate, to targeting and trying to get out stronger players raises your stock. So if there are a ton of weak players left in the game and then it's you, your chances of winning even with weak players against other weak players goes up. So yes, I understand where they're like, we want to be we want to be with all the strong people. And really, like you were saying, Chantel, Tyson is leaps and bounds way better than everybody else there in terms of like endurance, even strength a little bit, swimming. I mean, he really went all out for training for this challenge. I think he got the invitation letter and he went straight to the gym. He was throwing shade at 12 miles bike rides because that's not even a warm up. Amazing moment. But that's what I think. That's just the devil's advocate of playing. Like if we go after the strong players and kind of take them out, like what they did with Tiffany, and he was worried about Cashel. I mean, if that's the way you're going to go about it, then your stock rises, and then nobody can really take you out if you keep winning. Or if somebody's like, I want to work with him in the final, and they don't have like 6 other options where they're like, I would rather go with Cinco, Danny, Enzo. I can't even name any other stronger players that have Cinco again. Definitely not Dom. Kylan, who just won. I mean, you're the number one guy. You're the number one person if it is a partnership that people are looking at like, oh, I want to keep him and I hope I can partner up with him. But if you have 6 really strong guys at the end and you have to go into an elimination, now you're up against one strong guy, up against another strong guy, and possibly a hall brawl or Xavier. And that's no bueno. Instead of Tyson maybe wanting to go up against someone like James or Leo or one of the smaller guys that he would want to go up against, but they're classifying them as quote unquote weaker players.
I think they're just trying to ensure that they have better odds in winning a daily. And so that they won't have to be in contention for going down into the elimination.
Yeah. And funny enough, I think Tyson is seeing the Angela Tyson alliance as equal. Like that's one of the things here. He sees that Angela will see through him. Like if he does go after physical guys, Angela would be like, okay, well, now we've got to go after a physical woman as well. Like, I don't think Angela is going to be one of those people that are going to sit back and say, no, we'll just do it all your way. I think that they would clash a little bit about that. So it is about what is mutually beneficial to both of those two players who between them they've won everything so far. So they've had all the
Mhm.
power in this game. We don't know what this challenge house is going to look like next week if Tyson and Angela actually don't have the power, because that has not happened as of yet, which is impressive in itself. We're 3 weeks in. Two people have consistently been in that power position. So it's exciting to see what potential variation could come up next week and who could potentially be in power, because we know next week is going to be an absolute crapshoot because it's going to be trivia.
It's true. It's true. I have a question though before we talk about the potentials of trivia. What do you think the significance of Shan noticing Tyson and Angela talking and like, oh, like I can see you guys talking, like, you know, I know what you guys are doing over there. You think you're running the game, and nothing this episode really came of that. So, what do you think that was kind of trickling in some breadcrumbs for?
I
Drew, do you
mean,
want me to take it or do you want to go?
I have a theory, but if you want to go, you can go.
Oh yeah, I'll go first, but then you give us your theory as well on this, because I'm sure we both have our opinions. Shan, for me, it's an interesting arc that we're seeing with her, because she's slowly but surely starting to get more airtime. Like this episode, it wasn't just this moment; it was also about the Shantham and her relationship
And like,
with Derek.
I'm not that strategic.
Not that strategic at all. I didn't even think about this, and these guys hardly ever talk to me. In the meantime, she does want to work with Survivor. I think Shan is coming in with a much bigger reputation into this game than what I even saw her coming into. Like, because I've always thought Shan was a capable player, but I thought she overplayed her hand too early in Survivor. But her reputation of having her own Shantham following her into this game about blindsiding people and singing the song, I think people are putting two and two together, and they know that she's very capable and dangerous. So her noticing Tyson could set up the Tyson versus Shan battle at some stage, with Tyson targeting Shan, because Shan is going to be one of those weaker players physically, not mentally, not strategically, but physically. I don't think she's one of the strongest players in this game. So I do think that long term, unless Tyson gets taken out, which I just don't see. I don't see a world. Like, I see Tyson running this game. I'm sorry to say it. I feel like he's leaps and bounds ahead of these people. He's played 5 times now, if you count this challenge season into it. I think that he's going to outplay Shannon. I've got a feeling she's being a little bit too passive, because she's like, I'm noting it, but I'm not going to act on it. And to me, when you note these things in a game such as this with a player of the capability of Tyson, you make a move against them earlier rather than later. But then there is the fear, if I turn my back on Survivor, do I have a home in this house? Do I have a place where I can go where people will actually have my back? So she's between a rock and a hard place. And I think her previous aura about her and her legacy within Survivor is following her into the game, and it's going to get used against her. That's how I see it at the moment. Drew, thoughts?
So Shan is one of the players that are getting talked about and getting airtime despite not going into an elimination, not really being a target, not winning anything. I mean, we heard her in the first episode with Danny, Danny talking about how Shan kind of was a big mastermind, and Kiki told him to stay away from her or be weary
Kiki
of
has
her.
had more airtime than David.
Yes, we all know.
Should you put like a new like little name for Kiki on our draft?
I really
list?
wish that I had bonus points for every time Kiki gets mentioned, because I would at least have some points, and some could be in this running of this fantasy draft. Anyways, and then in episode 2, there were remarks from her own Survivor alliance talking about how if you need some information, just come to the Shan news desk. And then we get to this one, this episode, and we have Derek and Shan talking, and Derek is like, I'm not buying anything that Shan is trying to sell me here, trying to say that, oh, Survivor is strong, but I'm not really into Survivor. I'm not really that strategic. I'm just trying to have a good time, meet up with some friends, and try to push through. And then even in this episode, she's like, I want to make new friends outside of Survivor. I want to I want to talk to other people. And then she's noticing Tyson and Angela across the warehouse/house, and while she's working out with Justine. So I wonder if that kind of plays a factor into, say, sooner rather than later, she is talking to somebody, or Tyson doesn't win into power, or Angela doesn't win into power next episode. And then she's trying to throw out some names of being like, well, I see them talking a lot. And that's Big Brother and Survivor. They feel like they have all the numbers in the house. We need to maybe put some pressure on them. And then she's talking to whoever is in power, and that person comes over and tells Tyson and Angela, or
Yeah, and
Tyson
she
and
gets
the rest of the Survivor players. And Danny's like, look, I played with her, and Kiki told me to get her out as soon as possible. And then boom.
So you think this is just foreshadowing?
We could see her going into an elimination sooner rather than later, is the way I'm taking this edit, more so than her taking shots at Tyson and Angela.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I don't think that. I mean, I want to see her play, but I don't know if she's actually playing well because she hasn't had any power. So it's really hard for me to really know what she's actually doing. And I feel like when she does have a little bit of power, that she might overplay her hand and not realize, kind of like how Tiffany didn't realize that she didn't have the people on her side when she wants. Well, Tiffany wasn't making a big move, but if Shan wants to make a big move, I think that she won't have the numbers, even though she thinks that she might, or thinks it's the logical thing to do, or thinks that we have to get them out now. And people are like, yeah, maybe that's true, but we want them here. So you're going in. I can see that happening to her for sure.
Yeah, I want to bring up a couple of the comments here as you guys were talking about Shan. So Dolores says here, the thing with Shan is her only power is her reputation. Tyson is well aware of Shan. This man is a veteran. He's not concerned about her. And it's kind of what I said, and I think both Chantal and Drew agree with that as well. John or Juan, depending on where in the world you are, is manifesting a Shan win in the Trivia Daily so she can throw Tyson and Angela in. That would be something. That would be a shocker, I think, if that happened. I'm not against the power, being thrown out in the house, but at this stage, I feel like for me personally, it's too early because a Tyson win is a Survivor win, and it means less of my Survivor players are getting thrown down there, even though it's racking up points for Chantal week in and week out with either Tyson or Angela winning. She's got the two top players at the moment, Chantal. I don't know. It's almost like you knew something before we came into this season.
I didn't know anything. Well, I knew that
I
knew that I wanted Tyson. I had a good idea that I would want Angela. Just knowing that she was a competitive pole vaulter, I was like, I think she even ran in the Olympics, or maybe she was training for it. Like, she's very, very athletic, and pole vaulting is very challenging. Not very many people can do that in the world. And so I was like, and she's a gymnast. Like, I think that she has a lot of skills that would be really good. And she was decent at most of the competitions in Big Brother 20. So I was just like, I just felt that she was like a gold mine. And so I was really happy that you guys didn't have any idea of what she was going to be capable of, and that I got her as my first girl pick.
Well, I think the person in this chat feeling the most, like he got it wrong is probably Drew, because he had a shot at getting her, but he then went for Tasha, who ended up being the person that went home here in the first round. But
you're trying to break Drew's heart right now.
I just want to throw this out there. I watch all these shows. I'm not like super fans and do recaps and reviews on every single episode of every single iteration of these reality shows. So I
shade? Is that shade?
No, not at all. No, but okay. I picked with my heart more than my head, and I couldn't see myself rooting for Angela or wanting Angela to win and at any point, and I wanted to pick people that I wanted to root for and see go far. So I was excited for Tasha. I got a little too excited, I guess, for Tasha. So that's why I picked her second. And then yeah, it's fine. I'm totally cool with it. I mean, I'm not cool with seeing her go, but I'm cool with picking her and then her being eliminated more so than winning this. This is just like a bonus. I won by so much on the All-Stars 3-1. I'm still living in the past on that one. So
is that going to be every episode?
You're going to be that guy like 4 seasons from now. You guys remember that All-Stars 3 when I just absolutely dominated you guys?
I'm going to scrape a little off the top of those like 800 points that I didn't need all of them. I'm just going to bring them over here because I need them. I got David over here.
So the perfect time for you to mention David. Lil Smurfy is asking you, hold on, who's the weakest guy right now? To me, that's David. I would also argue that Dom didn't do himself any favors this round. Just.
Ooh, this is a first time.
This is karma, everybody. This is Cache coming in and cutting his mic on the middle of a Dom thing.
You were frozen, and we're just like, this is the first time. You're back.
No. So I was gonna say. So just because I like Dom, right, and obviously I always like the guy. Doesn't mean I'm going to look away from his shortcomings in the game. And one of the things about Dom this episode is that he proved, like, in clutch situations, like in the arena, when he went into the arena and he had to fight for his life, he didn't plug the hole, which is the simplest thing to do in the arena. He absolutely had a brain fart. Plug your pipe, So I can't say that Dom, he said he was going to go in there and show people why they don't want to mess with him. I don't think that he made anybody fear him after the performance that we saw in this episode.
Absolutely not. And the fact that, like, when they're doing their confessionals, I don't know if they tape it before or after, but when she's like, okay, well, we're gonna go with your plan, like, we'll see how it works, like, I think that I should go, whatever. So she was hoping to go into the whatever, the tank and remove all the puzzle pieces or blocks. I don't know how heavy those are. They look like cinder blocks, but, like, I don't think that they were that heavy, obviously.
No.
And so she's like, well, if the water's going down, like, it's not like I have to be submerged underwater for that long. Like, I should do the tank part. And because he's taller than her, probably, she's probably thinking, like, being able to stack those, it would probably be better. But he's like, no, I'll do the water tank stuff. Like, maybe he thinks he's a better swimmer, he can hold his breath for longer, whatever. But the fact that he was like, I need to go do this part because I will do it better than you, and he nearly lost it for both of them, I was like, it had to be that he wanted to throw it and get all kicked off, because, like, it just made zero sense whatsoever. And then after the fact, he's tweeting out that, oh, well, Cinco from the sidelines is the one that really won this challenge, this elimination. And I was like, what? So you're taking the credit away from Cachet, who ended up doing really well and having a steady hand and, like, building the block tower, while you're standing there watching her and nearly losing the game because you don't have your foot on the plug. So I don't know. It was a very weird thing that went down. I don't know if it was just a brain fart, as he said. It seemed to me like he was trying to lose it for whatever reason.
I originally thought that it was for like a control issue kind of thing, where if he's standing outside the tank and she's not being able to get any of the blocks out, then he's sitting there going, like, I can't control my fate at this point. As long as he's getting the blocks out, he knows how fast he's getting the blocks out and getting them to her, that maybe she can start to stack them, I think was also the thought process there. But at a certain point, I don't know if he was just like, well, it's too late. It's too late for me to plug this hole, but it was never too late. That's the thing. It was never too late. Just put your foot on there and let it, and just stop it. Like hold on to it. Like, and it's not one of those things where, oh, I completely lost sight of it. I mean, you're in the tank. You can feel the water flowing down. Like,
how did you forget?
I thought he was, I don't know if he was like testing it, or if he was like, if I go, I go, who cares kind of thing. Maybe he wasn't like actively throwing it, but maybe he was just like, if I go, I go. I can't do this.
If that is like, I didn't even think about the fact that maybe he wanted to throw it, because in my mind I was like, it's Dom. Dom's going to want to go to the end. Like, he's not going to want to go out like a punk. But if that is what he did, which we don't know at this time, it's speculation. But if that is what it is, and if it ever came out that he did try and throw it, then I would lose all respect for Dom. I couldn't defend him, couldn't stand for that. We on this podcast do not like quitters. We want people that are going to fight. If you commit to the show, you've committed for the whole show. And it's not even that long. These are shorter filmed seasons compared to the main show. So at least go out there and try and win it. So I was really not happy with how that went down. But I will say this, like, Cash being on the puzzle and actually building it, I think was the better call, because I feel like Dom, being a bigger guy, he's probably would have knocked it over and wouldn't have had the dexterity to actually do that part of it. So Cash definitely was in the right position. That's the one good call he made, was to be in there. And it did look like he got the puzzle or the building blocks before the other team. So he was pretty quick in doing that. It's just he did not plug the hole, which to me is...
He nearly lost. The fact that he got called out by TJ, I don't think TJ's ever like called out a winner like that, being like, you nearly lost that, right? Like, that was, and like from some angles, it looked like it went under the line. You know what I mean? Like, they might have just like allowed them to keep it because she was like placing that last block, and maybe they're just like, okay, if it falls, then they're done. If she gets it, they'll keep it. Like, I'm not sure how they timed that, because it was at the line. It was at the line. I watched some exit press with Tasha and James, and Tasha was saying that she's only 5'3", and Cache I think is maybe 5'8" or 5'9", and so she actually wished that her and James switched the roles because he was taller and he would have been able to have a little bit more of that dexterity that you're speaking of, placing some of those upper blocks, and they wouldn't knock over as easily. So on their side, they were wishing that they might have switched because it might have been better for them to stack. But I do think that it was the right order for Cache and Dom. Well, since they won. If they didn't win, obviously it would have been the worst way to go.
That's why I was kind of going, like, being like weird of when I saw both guys go into the tank. I was like, it doesn't take like your height to get the blocks unhooked. And even Tasha was on Survivor, so she can do something in water relatively well. So I thought that the right move would have been swapping Tasha and James in that elimination. And I think James also got into his head a little bit too much about like trying to plug the hole while also trying to undo the blocks when he had all the time in the world to undo all the blocks and then step on the hole and do all that. So I think Tasha would have been able to handle the pressure inside the tank a little bit better. And James would have been able to stack the blocks way more and I think way quicker, especially with his height that he has.
Yeah, so Taylor here says that Shannon said on Mark Long's podcast that they were yelling for Tom to plug the hole, maybe because he was in one of those glass cages. It's harder to hear in there. I can definitely see that as a possibility. Again, I'm wanting to not believe that he threw it, but again, like I said, if it ever came out and it's proven that he did throw it, without a doubt, I would not be a fan of that at all. I couldn't defend that.
I will say that Cinco, he did say like thanks to Cinco for helping us out during that elimination from the sidelines, because I could hear him doing something the loudest over to help out Cache or helping the Cache. But so yeah.
Well, and I was wondering, I'm like, like they're yelling at them to do stuff. Like, why aren't they yelling at them to plug the hole? So I actually wanted to know whether or not they weren't allowed to say plug the hole or something, because we didn't really hear that.
I was wondering that as well.
And so I was like, so maybe they weren't allowed to do that, and they're just supposed to be like, just if that's the case. But if he's saying that Shannon they were yelling at them to plug the hole, it just feels like he wanted to just like stick it to Cash. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Something's weird about it. But
listen, I will say this: you guys had a go at me for coming in here being high on Dom, still wanting to defend him, and that's just me. I'm a loyal person. If I'm a Survivor fan, I'm a Survivor fan, and I can be biased, 100%. That is my bias. I acknowledge it. But hearing everything about this, like, if it's true, it's making me a hell of a lot lower on it, because I just want to make sure everybody understands that I'm not for that. I'm not for the fact that, the blame game, putting it on the females, like Thunder Goddess says here, like old school CT, that's not good. I'm not a fan of that either. And also here, Hippie Chick saying Dom wanted to go home, which is messed up when you have a partner. I don't care how much you don't like your partner in the game. You got to fight until the end. And again, I just want to make it clear, we don't know for a fact that he did that, but it does not look good. And I can acknowledge that.
One thing that Shannon also said on with Mark Long was that she doesn't want to go back on the show because the food sucked and she didn't get to party, which I thought was funny.
too many push-ups for
one party so far, which is weird. They had like the first episode party, and then we haven't seen anything else, which is.
Hey James, if I send you a DM on Instagram now, would you want to jump on and have a chat with us? It's up to you, no pressure. Since you are back, let us know in the chat if you want to jump on, and we can see if we can send you a link and you can jump on. It'd be cool to chat with you.
So I have the tweet here. So this is what Dominic tweeted. He's like, this win wouldn't have happened without an assist from the stage from Cinco, and so he tags Cinco. And then Cache says, or without your partner, who can work well under pressure with a steady hand while you didn't do your literal main job, which was to not let the water drain out. So that was a couple of back and forths on social media. There's a few more, but I don't have those up here.
Yeah.
So he's definitely giving credit to Cinco from this. Like, how did Cinco help her stack a block? She had to physically do that herself. It's just like, if someone's like, hey, use the other one. Like, you don't have to actually listen,
Awesome. James, don't worry about it. I thought I would just, put the offer out there if you wanted to jump on, but we'll definitely catch up with you and chat with you at some point. I'd be so interested to hear your take, since you were actually there, on some of the things that we don't know enough about, and we're just speculating and trying to put the pieces together with different people going on different podcasts, different things being said. Like I said, it'd be really interesting to get your take on it. And I'm sure we'll get that opportunity to chat with you at some stage. But overall, we do see here, sadly, James is going to go home and Tasha's going to go home. Tasha's out so early. She wants to play the game again. James saying, that he really felt emotional when he actually put that jacket on with the challenge logo on it, because he's such a big fan of all of these shows. Let's hope that there is the Challenge USA season 2, so he comes back, or maybe we'll ask him next time if he's interested in making his debut on the main show on MTV, which would be awesome to have James even show up there. I feel like the Challenge, since he's already in that realm, that there's a higher likelihood that he'll be back on the Challenge. But I also think that the strategic chops that he showed, he could fit into a lot of different shows. I think it's transferable.
Well, I definitely think that the Challenge USA will be back because Big Brother 24 is so bad.
Oh, really?
It's not good. It's not good that I'm not even covering it. And I'm obsessed with Big Brother. It used to be my favorite show. And right now I'm not even compelled to want to cover it, other than being guest hosting on other channels. So I can see that it might be performing better than Big Brother. And so you're going to keep your top performing shows on the air. So even if it's to big up Big Brother, people be like, oh, you come on Big Brother, you might be able to get to go on CBS's The Challenge USA. So I think it's going to come back for a second season. So far, I think it's really successful in what I've seen. I know there's a lot of grievances with a lot of the contestants, but they might be able to fix that for next season, depending on what they were. So I'm thumbs up for the Challenge USA coming back. I think that it should, and it will, and maybe people will be able to come back and play again, even if they played on season 1. It won't be just a new cast.
To me, it just makes sense because there's an endless pool of talent. Like, we only saw 3 Amazing Race people make their way into the season. Hopefully next time we've got more Amazing Race contestants making the jump over. We have got plenty more seasons of Survivor. We've got plenty more seasons of Big Brother, people that have not made it onto this. Love Island as well. I'm just not as familiar with Love Island, but clearly they're adding a fun element.
So far, I think. You don't like it,
They're
Drew?
adding a fun element to the show. So I'm sure that there will be more people that could be pulled from that as well. I do want to talk a little bit about the daily, because we kind of brushed over it as we skipped to the arena. The daily was an interesting one. I know, Drew, you were a little bit low on it. I quite like the whole hangman having to run back and forth, get the letters, and then one person needed to hold the weighted bags up, I guess, at the end. And there was also a puzzle component to it with them having to build the staircase. I want to give props to Kyland for actually sorting everything out before they're placing it in, using a proper strategy here. And then I found it really interesting. Were you guys shocked that Kyland was the one that they chose to go and figure out the word? One of the things that would be good to ask James if we ever get him on was, were you able to help? Could you talk to each other as you were running back, so that, Angela technically could still help Kyland with the word? Or was Kyland supposed to get that sorted out himself on the other end? I was interested, because I thought maybe Kyland wouldn't be in that, but I know he's physically really fit, so he obviously killed it in the running portion.
I feel like they could help. But the only thing that I'm thinking of, and I think it was Cachet saying to Dom, like, don't choose E or something, that he chooses a letter. I can't remember exactly what had happened, but I do think that they were able to talk to each other. But you guys can clarify for me.
James here is saying, I need an OG theme for season 2. Bring back Battle of the Seasons, but make it shows so that there's maybe more equal seasons together. Would you be here for it, Drew and Chantal, since you guys have watched it since the beginning, OG fans as well? Would you like an OG theme like that on USA season 2?
Well, we kind of talked about that's how it should have been. It should have been evenly distributed, the amount of people from each season. That's kind of what we were saying wasn't great about the main show, is the fact that, like, okay, we have a big group of Big Brother people, and then when they bring a couple of Survivor people on, they can't get any footing here. And so definitely think like a Battle of the Seasons for the Challenge USA would work, or Battle of the Series, I guess, Battle of the Shows. I think it would work really well, and I would like to see that. I want to see everybody have kind of a fair chance, and I don't love seeing one show dominating over another show. So I would be here for it, 100%.
We definitely need those equal numbers, right?
Yes, and I made a fantasy cast. One of my last fantasy casts I made like a long time ago was Big Brother versus Survivor versus The Challenge, and I made like a 3 teams format of Battle of the Shows because we can't do Battle of the Seasons, and I was hoping that we would get a Battle of the Seasons here this year because then we could keep the 10-year tradition alive of 2002, 2012, and then 2022.
Well, it kind of is then, I guess, just not called that.
Yeah, not really. But I think it would be interesting. The only thing is that you're only gonna have like a set number of people that you can pick from Love Island. Now that it's moved networks and it's no longer under the Paramount CBS umbrella, so you're either gonna pick more from season 1, 2, or come back to the well of season 3. Because right now it's over on Peacock and it is flying high over there. But I think I enjoy Battle of the Shows. I would just mention that I would just like it to have all the equal number of players from the shows. I don't necessarily want to see like a 3-team, 4-team format because I would love to see more of like cross lines, cross alliances. That's what I would like to see. So I'm cool with I think they should have done it from the very beginning, having more of the same numbers. But
yeah, I see what you're saying, and I totally agree that I don't want each show sticking together necessarily and battling as a unit, but I want, as you're saying, like the same amount of people, and like which show is better is still what's happening, but everything gets mixed around. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ben. I went this whole podcast 1 hour into it without being able to mention his name. I know you guys have got as much love for Ben as I do.
We don't want to stomp on all your heroes today, You're
like, you're going to give me one. You're going to give me one person. But Ben keeping up with Kylan on the run, barely losing out in this specific section here. I thought that was quite interesting to see the battle between the young buck and I don't know, it's been like 40 yet. I don't feel like he's 40. He's probably in like his late 30s, but they were like, it's the older guy versus the young buck out there.
I mean, I don't know, with the old versus young, like I'm actually not as mad at Ben as I thought I was going to be. Ben, who? Don't ask Chris. Ask Chris. I don't want to get involved.
I kind of feel gutted. I was planning on getting a cowboy hat for the whole Challenge USA. I completely forgot about it. Now we're 3 episodes in, and I feel it's too late. I should have had like the hat on for as long as he stayed in the game, but I feel like he doesn't have the hat on all that often now on the show. He's kind of thrown it to the side.
Look like?
He doesn't
kind
have
of bald. He's kind of like, it's kind of bald.
I can only picture him with the hat on, so I actually don't know what his hair looks like.
He cut it all off because he had a really long beard and really long hair for the longest time, and then I think coming onto this show, he decided to cut all of it down a lot. But I honestly thought Ben was gonna win this daily challenge this episode for the sole fact that he got so many confessionals, and they were showing his like, I love Wheel of Fortune and doing all this stuff.
RSTLE, which is the
true.
words.
I honestly thought because they were showing so much of that, and he hasn't really was shown in a lot of other episodes. More specifically, he was shown to just say like, oh, you have to go up the ladder, go down the ladder, jump up, jump down. Like he was doing more of the directions of what it was. But this episode, he was showing a lot more of his strategy. He was involved, and I thought that he was going to be able to outdo it over Kylan, who got like 0 confessionals throughout this whole time, but was able to pull out the win. I also want to give a shout out to my absolute favorite moment, besides the Tyson and Alyssa moment that they had beforehand. But one moment that I only caught on my second rewatch before I did the review and recap was David and Shannon, who I want to see more as a partnership. But there was one point where David walks up the stairs, he's looking through the letters, and then he just goes, all right, I'm going to try a T. And Shannon just goes, I don't give a fuck. Like, just go. No, I don't care. Like,
get out of my space.
Like, it was just so funny. Like, he was just like, all right. And just like runs off. Like, she's in her own world, just trying to stand there, hold on, like not to fall off, not to go into an elimination. You just do your job and run down and guess a letter. I just thought that was really funny.
Okay, before we talk about the biggest moment, which obviously was that one that you mentioned, also another big moment that was funny earlier on was Derek and Sean when they were having their conversation and they walked off, and Derek is, let's go for a walk so we can work on our chemistry. I was thinking, what's his girlfriend's name? Is it Claire or something like that? I think she wouldn't have liked that too much, because it was almost like, let's work on our chemistry in a datey kind of way. And Sean's an attractive girl, you know. If I was Claire, I would have been asking some questions afterwards.
I didn't pick up on that. I guess I don't see him as somebody that would ever cheat on Claire. So
I don't think he would. I think it just,
I
it
didn't
sounded,
think about it at all.
it sounded
I hear it
strange
now.
in that moment, you know. But obviously, Chantal, Drew brings up a great point here. Tyson and Alyssa being paired together now. Alyssa, she doesn't want to be the person that is part of Tyson's equation of not winning, because that leaves a bad memory in Tyson's head. He's already looking for weak players to get rid of. Obviously, he can't be paired with her again, so maybe she becomes less of a threat to him until a later stage in the game, but she doesn't want to be seen as weak by other players, and suddenly Tyson lose that winning streak. And there's this moment before they go into the challenge where Tyson says, well, some people say that they've gone biking for 12, or they're cycling for 12 miles. That's not even a warm-up. And she looks at him and she's like, that was me. And he like recovers. He's like, oh, that's not even a warm-up.
I love that moment. I laugh. And I love how she was really playful in that moment. I love that he was also really playful back. I think that her intention, even if she didn't win that daily with him, was to create a bond of some sort so that he will want to work with her in the future. So I think she was going to be a good partner. She was going to try really hard. She wasn't going to quit or give up. She was going to have a little bit of a banter with him. So I think that she did what she had got set out to do with her relationship with Tyson, because I don't see him coming for her, even though they didn't win the daily. She didn't lose the daily. Like, if she had done what Tasha did and they went directly into elimination and they came out and won, I think that might have been a different story. But the fact that she didn't lose when he did put weight on her bar, and they seem to have good chemistry as well, and he has a partner. I think that it's going to be fine for her moving forward.
Yeah, Dolores saying that Claire is a gamer. She wouldn't be worried about Derek and what he had to do to stay in the game. Danita here brings up another great moment I almost forgot about. Cash having to go to the bathroom during the challenge would be the one for her. And that was a funny scene as well, because, you know, Dom was like, why is she running so fast? And she's like, I have to get out of here. I've got a jet.
Well, that would be something to be annoyed by my partner if she had to hey, I can't do this, I have to go to the washroom. That would be, if I were Dom, I'd be really annoyed. But the fact that she's running fast because she's just trying to get it done quickly,
that'd be the worst timing. You're in the middle of a challenge, and I can't imagine that challenge was a quick one either, because they had to run that whole distance up and down the whole time. Then she had to go and they had to build the puzzle with the ladder. She had to go and stand up on that little podium thing. Or was she the one running? No, she was the one on the podium, right? And Dom was running back and forth. Can't imagine that would have been a quick challenge.
Maybe it was a nervous pee, though. Maybe it was just because she's had to perform. Sometimes you get a nervous, you have to pee if you have to perform. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. Is there anything that we have not touched on here for the episode? I feel like we've kind of touched on all the main talking points. If not, we're going to go into our draft. And while you guys look at your notes, I might as well bring the draft up in the meantime and remove players that are no longer in the game. Now, obviously, we had James, who was the People's Champion, sadly falling here this episode, leaving the audience without a person in the game. And then we had probably the biggest elimination so far this season. Drew loses his number one female pick, and Tasha, for the season. So it's very even Steven when it comes to the numbers in regards to who's left in the game. But Drew might be telling us a different story when it comes to the actual points and where that is sitting at. But before we go into that, anything that I missed, Chantal? I know you had a look at your notes.
I was kind of thinking about just what our thoughts are around the episode title being Declaration of Independence. So do you think that was kind of around the fact that James didn't want to necessarily stay true to the Amazing Race, and he was just trying to solidify himself within the Survivor world?
I think so. Personally, I think that it was definitely around James trying to solidify long-term relationships and getting into the Survivor group. And I thought his read was right. Like I said, strategically, James didn't, in my mind, do anything wrong. Now, obviously, ethically, it probably doesn't look good that he's willing to turn his back against the Amazing
And then telling
Race.
Leo, I thought maybe telling Leo about it might have been a misstep.
I think it got back
if he
to.
came
I think
back.
it got back to Leo. I'm pretty sure Leo went into that conversation already with some knowledge that conversations were happening, and he was just being open and honest because it made its way back to him. That's kind of how I read it, unless I'm wrong.
I thought that it might have been more effective. I didn't think of it coming back to Leo. I felt like James was
Mm.
telling him what was going on to be a little bit more transparent. And Leo was like, wait, you want to go against me? And, I think that James could have maybe said like, well, you were one of the options. Like I didn't push for you, but like you were one of the options that they were thinking of. Like I think that he should have maybe just like not kind of say that he suggested that and that he'd be willing to go against Leo versus, and instead of going against Dom, it would be something that he would prefer. In case he came back, I think that it could have ruining that friendship would have been. I don't think it would have been good for his game long term.
There's some things that James said in this chat that makes me need to go listen to his exit interviews, because he said that the edit was completely a lot off of the story that they were spinning, to where he didn't necessarily want to go up against Leo and Shannon. I think he mentioned somewhere in the chat, and I, again, need to do my due diligence and listen to like 6 different podcast interviews to get the full story. Or if we can luckily get him on one of these review and recaps, that would be amazing to get his full like his full view on everything. But I think he said that he knew that they were going to be a part of like the decision process. Like Leo and Shannon were going to be up for elimination and would be in Angela and Kylan's mind. So it's kind of like one of those things where I think it was just kind of brought up during the deliberation, and at that point you're kind of just like counting, okay, well, if I have to go up against them, I mean, it's out of my hands. I'm going into the elimination, and if I have to go up against somebody, it's either going to be one of my team members of the Amazing Race with Leo, or it's going to be Dom and Cache. And I think he was really trying to push more for probably Dom and Cache, even though he was telling Dom, like, I don't want to go up against you. I don't want to go up against you. He even said somewhere in the chat that him and Leo watched the episode together and laughed at the edit on how it was edited together. So I think there's something more to there. So
cool. Okay.
I do want to give another shout out here, since I'm in the mood for giving shout outs. I did the Ben shout out. I want to give a shout out for my girl Justine, even though she's not on my team. I thought she had a good episode again. Like, obviously low key, not as much of an edit, not being tied to Tyson again. But I thought she had a great observation when it came to the whole thing about Leo not having as much control or social game as he's probably aware of. Like, I love Leo as a character, always will, but she really saw where the house was at and the risk that they had of potentially going down there. She saw it coming where he didn't. And I think that maybe some of her connections in his social game, we didn't get to see that, and how it kept them out of that potential elimination. So, she didn't have much content, but I've enjoyed I think out of the Love Island girls,
she's kind of a top confessional person, though, if I'm not mistaken. Like, she's kind of on the higher end, if I'm not mistaken. I sent it another little list of all the confessionals I think that somebody had sent me.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm
so Justine and Cash are probably the two that I enjoy the most of Love Island so far. Like, Shannon's fun in a different way, but I think that if I had to like put an endorsement onto 2 players I want to see come back from Love Island, those would be the 2 I would put my endorsement next to at this stage.
Oh, for sure. They're great. I think they're great people. I met Cache in New York, and she was lovely, funny, very likable, charming. Like, I definitely enjoyed her as a personality. So, which is also why it was so surprising that Dom has so much disdain for her. And so I wish though that I paid more attention to see whether or not they interacted, because Dom was also at that event. And so I wish I'd paid attention to see whether or not like they were hanging out and chilling at all, or like if they kind of avoid each other. I wish that I'd known a little bit more, so I could have paid attention when I saw them live in the same space.
And I thought she dealt with his abrasiveness really well. Even when he was like, no, I'm doing this. She's like, okay, let's do that, but let it be known if it doesn't go well, you're the one who made the call. But I thought she did it in a good way. So hats off to her for dealing with it. He was that's why I said he came across as very bulldozy, which is a shame because that's not how I saw him play his first season. But we already spoke about that. I don't want to go back down.
The
that
one
same
other
rabbit
thing
hole.
that we didn't speak about that their dynamic was the fact that she's like, hey, can you stop making it seem like you're ready to go in and that you want to
Yes.
go in? Can you please not make it easy for them to just throw us in because we're ready and we're expecting it? And I thought that that was a good call from a person that's not well versed in this game, because yeah, you don't necessarily want to make it easy for them. You're not throwing yourself in, be like, I know you're going to put me in anyway, so I'm ready. But be ready, absolutely, but like don't make it obvious to everybody so that's coming back to your partner that like Dom is saying that he wants to be thrown in or he knows that he's going to be going in.
And
Yeah.
can I just mention one thing, because I thought we were going to go the whole time without saying it, but I have to say it. His reaction to her saying that was, oh my gosh, it made my blood boil to be like, oh, you're giving me advice? You're giving me? Who was actually on an island? You were on Love Island, which was a great paradise in Hawaii. But
it was actually Las Vegas. Oh no, they were in Hawaii.
She was in Hawaii.
Sorry,
but yeah, I came up runner up, and you're trying to tell me strategy. And like almost like patted her on the head, and then was like walking across all the guys and was like, Cinco, you got a good one. She's smart over there. She's real smart. And then going to lay on the lounger, being like, get the F out of here. Oh, I'm on the construction side. I get to say what I call the shots, and nobody ever tells me what to do.
I'm the supervisor. I'm the supervisor.
I got the third Love Island girl in a row.
You will respect my authority.
Oh my god, how did we get so lucky to get this impression? Oh my god.
I'm so glad, Chantel, you brought it up. It was worth it. It was worth
I'm clipping this for sure.
I got a partner that is probably not good at a lot of stuff. Why is she running so fast? Why is she doing that? She can't do anything right in my eyes because I got second place in Survivor. Thanks for trying to tell me what to do. I'm gonna go sit over here. I'm gonna go polish my shoes. I'm gonna have a good time because
I'm not gonna plug the hole.
I'm not gonna do nothing. See you guys.
Listen, I came in. I'm like, I'm gonna turn a blind eye to a few things he did. But the more we spoke about it, the more I came to the conclusion. You guys are right. Like Dom's not in a good spot right now, and it's a shame. It's a shame how the mighty have fallen. Sometimes it's, what's that saying about if you live long enough, you can turn from a hero to a villain. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Anyways, spam it in the chat. I feel like that's what's happening. Maybe you should have only played one time.
Or just come back as like a nice guy. Like, I don't know, be like the lovable dad like archetype. I don't know. Like, be likable. Tyson is being, I think Tyson is playing the game that he thinks that he's playing, but Tyson actually put in the work. He got in shape. He's funny. He's getting along with people. Even if he doesn't like them, he's still kind of getting along with them, and he has power all the time. So I think that Tyson's playing the game that Dom wishes he was playing, but he's still acting like he's playing that game because he has strength in the survivor numbers. So it's a little bit of false sense of security that's giving him this like power complex, and it's like, it's not cute. Not cute. We saw the cuteness of this impersonation that Drew gifted us with. So that's how cute he was.
So Rachel was saying that they did take a photo together at that event that you spoke about. So maybe they're okay now. Who knows? Like, I don't know what set him off. Like, I mean, this is a different Dom compared to the one that we saw in Survivors. So I don't know. Could be anything. Honestly, so maybe he is annoyed because he is.
Honestly, my worst impression, but that's what you're going to get on my Tiny Table Talks over at patreon.com/AngelCakeVids is that Dom impression, which is absolutely terrible. I don't know where that came from. Was that Elvis? I don't know. That was just weird. It's the first thing that came out.
It was a gift from God or the divine.
The chat loves it. Lovable makes a Drew impression. So here we go. Baby Ice has got it. You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. And I feel like that should have been the title of this episode instead of Declaration of Independence. That's kind of how I feel about Dom at this stage. But hey, it's still early days. Drew, we've put it off long enough. Let's get into the numbers. Let's get cracking. I feel like I'm a little bit higher on this episode because a lot of my people had some confessionals this episode, but I'm sort of interested to see what happened on the points side of things because I've got a lot of ground to make up.
I mean, we don't have to go through the points. We could just bypass. No. I guess we'll start with the third place team, which is my team. which is being helmed by Queen Justine, as Chris was talking about earlier. She's my highest point scorer with 18 total points. Danny and Leo are my second highest with 12 each, mostly from confessionals. And so I jumped up a whopping 21 points from 56 points to 77 points. And that's only 7 more points than what Chris had last week. But Chris went up major points, went up 39 points.
Ooh.
So he went from 70 to 109, jumping into the triple crown or the triple digits. Your highest point scorer is Kyland at this point, winning a daily challenge, winning an elimination, and having 14 total confessionals over 3 episodes, 22 points. Your second highest is Dominic after getting 10 confessionals and winning an elimination. So he got 13 total points this episode. And yeah, so you got 109 points. And in the number 1 spot is Team Chantel, who is also in triple digits, of course, because she's number 1. You're in second place and you have 300 points. So she went from 89 points, and I can't do this math quickly in my head. You got 115 points total. So I guess like 26 points. So 26 points you get from this episode. Jump over, and your highest point scorer is, you guessed it, Tyson with 28 total points. And Cachet is your second total point scorer with 21 total points, and Angela with 19 total points. I do want to throw this out there that this was the second straight episode Azah did not have a single confessional. If she has more than 2 to 3 confessionals early on in the episode, she's going to be seeing another elimination. Just throwing that out there, alongside my boy David, who did not have, let's just not have him have a single point this season. I would love it.
He has one. He has one. He has 1 point.
I want
right?
to see if he can be lower than Kendall's point total, which was 9 in 5 episodes of All Stars. If David makes it past the halfway point and he can't even get into the double digits of points, I will laugh my head off, and I will just say that I lose this draft so quickly.
Like
I will
800.
Yeah, it'll just be minus whatever points you both have combined to whatever small points I have. But just throwing that out there. Kira also had only 1 confessional, and Xavier, after having 0 confessionals in episode 2, he only had 1 confessional this episode. So that I found was very interesting.
Did you not like his cannon bomb in the beginning of the episode?
Oh, like, but if there was actual water and like,
but that's what made it so funny.
It was, but you laughed. You really laughed with Derek bringing out the like. I didn't get it. So he's bringing out the kettle. Why is he bringing out the kettle to fill up the pool?
No, I don't know why he brought out the kettle. I didn't know that.
But
But it is funny because in the main show they normally actually have water in the jacuzzi, and in this one they didn't. So it's kind of like,
oh, that's why the kettle is, so it's supposed to be hot. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
I guess. So it's a jacuzzi or a whirlpool or whatever. Okay. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, it's tough so far. I mean, I could see a lot of different possibilities here, but I have to admit it this time, Chantal, we're 3 episodes in, you still have your top 4. They're looking very strong at this moment. I'm feeling slightly justified in picking Kyland. That's one good thing, because I know I got a lot of flack when I picked him in the pre-season content. But so far, he's starting to do really well. Fine. Yeah, he's worked for this. He loves the show. He trained to be on it. He did a bit of his research. So, credit where it's due. He's performing. I didn't come into this thinking he would be my top points getter at this point, and you've got Justine, who none of us would have thought would have been the top points getter for Drew at this stage. So hats off to Justine for making a real impact this season so far.
Also, I just had to put it out there that we're placing the over or under for confessionals for David at 4.5. So I want people to maybe decide if you think he'll get more than 4.5 confessionals or less than 4.5 confessionals with his entire stay this season.
I think Certified Soft, that people forgot that he's there. I don't actually think people know that he's playing the game at the moment. Also, Certified Soft here saying, I really want Dom to leave. He exudes misogyny, especially with the construction remarks. Yep, we've gone into that quite a bit. Definitely not a good look on his end at all. And then some extra love here for Kyland, which is also appreciated because, more Kylan love is good. I like liking the people that Chantel and Drew don't like so
tear
much.
you down eventually. Just kidding.
As soon as Kylan leaves the game or Ben leaves the game, you'll be like, "See, told you he was a horrible player. Got you, Chris. He was never going to win the season."
No, the reason why I'm not a fan of Kylan was from his gameplay on 24.
Yeah.
So or
I
23,
appreciate
sorry.
it.
So
I think we went into that in length from the previous podcast. For those who want to know a little bit about the backstory of Kylan and Big Brother 20, what was it, 23, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
So we're 24 now. Okay. I haven't watched Big Brother 24, but by the sounds of it, it sounds like I shouldn't. It's a lot of
I mean,
noise
we
out
were
there.
hoping that it was going to get better, and then they introduced a twist that's actually terrible. So, so it's
can't win them all.
Good.
At least we've got the Challenge USA to talk about weekly.
Agreed.
So I'm
fun.
happy with that. All right. So everybody in the live, thank you so much for joining us today. We love having you guys here, asking all your great questions and taking part in the conversation. Chantel, let people know where they can find you and what's coming up over the next week.
I'm around a lot. I'm going live at least a couple times a day for Love Island. So usually around 6:15 Eastern for Love Island UK, and after the episode for Love Island USA. So I'm basically going to watch that episode right now after I pop off of this, and then recap probably at around like 11:30 or midnight, depending on how long or how quickly I can get that done. So that's pretty much daily, and then doing The Bachelorette on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. At 9 or at 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays as well, doing the Amazing Race Canada. Wednesdays, you guys know Michelle, Michael, or Matthew and I do our recap for the challenge. Back here with you guys on Friday, and Saturdays doing the Challenge USA with Sarah from Nerdtainment. I think that's everything, but I forgot 5 shows. Probably just ring the bell and get notified when I go live. It's all the time. All the time.
Still the busiest woman in podcasting. Going over to Drew. Drew, what's happening over on your channel on Angel Cake Entertainment?
On Angel Cake, Fridays here, of course. And then on tomorrow, or Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for patron eyes only, is my tiny table talk for the Challenge USA. It's almost like a challenge tiny table talk at night after dark.
Ooh,
you know what I mean? I get a little bit more rowdy. You'll hear a lot of Dom
wine
impressions.
out. Do you get tipsy?
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time over there. But
reasons to join his Patreon.
Sunday is going to be endurance, of course. This season is messy. These kids are so messy. And then Monday, I'm also going to have a clip and patron exclusive. I have a bonus video coming out talking about my least favorite challenge season. So if you like my rants, it's going to be a good one.
Is it going to be the island?
It'll be surprising. It'll be surprising, I think, to a lot of people. Tuesday, I hope to get a challenge video out, but if not Tuesday, then it's going to be Friday. And then, of course, Thursdays are review and recaps for the Challenge USA. And then Fridays, probably a challenge video and getting to chat alongside these two lovely people and talk about the Challenge USA.
Nikki, thank you once again for looking after chat. I did notice a bit of spam there today, and you dealt with that very well. Thank you for helping out in the live, as always. And on the Nullified Take channel, it's pretty much Survivor South Africa and the Challenge USA content at this point. I did my live earlier today with Richard, who was in the chat earlier as well, and Zoe. We spoke about week 1 of Survivor South Africa, episodes 1 to 4, which... it was crazy. Like, Chantel, honestly, there was a couple of things that I feel like is discussion worthy after week 1. I know you were very down about some of the boots, and we won't spoil who those boots are.
Well, that's all that I'd
know about
so
a boot.
Just the one. So I don't know any of the other ones.
But I feel like we need to talk.
Okay, I haven't watched it yet.
And it's one weekend. So it's exciting.
Do you have a link for me, or what channel is it on?
I can sort you out. Thanks.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that offline. And also, I've got the exit interviews on the channel for the first 3 eliminated castaways. I will have exit interviews again next week and the live, as well as the Challenge USA on the channel. Please consider subscribing to all 3 of our channels.
Wait, maybe you've gotten to 1,000 because you were so close before.
And
everybody
I'm still so close.
There.
I'm still so close. I'm 978 subs. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs, guys. It's a massive milestone. So if you I'm sure everybody in the live is already subscribed. I'm sure these are the diehard fans of the channel and of what we do. But if you're not, please consider subscribing, as I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers on the channel. And also, if you're listening to this later on the audio version on Spotify, consider jumping over and or Apple or Google and subscribing to the Nullify Take channel on YouTube. Your support means a lot to us because, you know, without you, we're just three people with a microphone talking about things and no one's listening. So we really appreciate your support. Continue to show your support, not just to my channel, but also to Reality Realness and the Angel Cake Entertainment channel as well. So we can continue to make these videos and live podcasts together and have a lot of fun for many years to come. And that's my rant at the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for being here, and catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.